So probably the biggest story of 2026 so far has been the Venezuela situation. This kind of just happened right as the year was starting. It's been a big story. But what's interesting about this whole thing is the response. The response has been so variable, and there's so many different responses to this situation. But I feel like almost all of them are misdirected in some way. You have a lot of people acting like it's just the liberals protesting that this went down, which is interesting because that's kind of not the case. It's kind of really just anyone that's like consistent, anyone that didn't want new wars, didn't want regime change going on. People that have been critical of the Venezuela situation from the start, not trusting the drug narrative and the stories about the boats and all that stuff. What's interesting is we have a lot of people kind of shutting down any sort of debate on the topic by saying, well, Venezuelans are excited about this. But the thing is, this isn't really black and white. The Venezuelans are allowed to be excited that their unelected, at least not currently elected, he was elected at one point, but he's been a illegitimate leader since the last election, but they have an illegitimate leader get taken out of power. Of course they'll be excited. That's like if we randomly got taken over by some like Marvel villain, and then like a bigger Marvel villain comes and defeats that villain, people will probably be like, before they know the full story, they'll be like, yay, someone took that guy out, until, the guy comes, like that Megamind meme, where they're like, you freed us. And then they go, I want to say freed, I would say under new management. I mean, that's literally exactly what happened, basically. We liberate Venezuela and then go, but we're in charge now, apparently, is what Trump says. But then he also says we didn't arrest any other major figures in this, just Maduro and his wife. So nothing's really probably changed. He's even still saying we might have to keep up the boat strikes, which kind of implies America's on charge, but we're at least claiming we're gonna be, right? So I think that should still be said. That's a genuine concern that isn't negated by Venezuelans being maybe glad that Maduro was arrested. These aren't mutually exclusive things. You can do both. You can maybe be glad Maduro's not in power, but be concerned about what comes next. That's a completely valid response. On X, formerly Twitter, where community noting is a big thing. It's probably more known that a lot of these were fake if you were on X, but so many of the videos were not even from Venezuela, and if they were, they weren't recent. So we had some from like Chile, we had some from Mexico, past ones from Venezuela, like from 2014 or something. The videos were either from a different country or old. Now, I did see genuine celebrating. It looked like it. Like TikTok's a pretty instantaneous platform. You can see lives and whatnot. A lot of Venezuelans on there saying that people were celebrating. But here's where it gets interesting, is when you think about, well, why, especially if people really were celebrating, why did we need the fake post everywhere, especially from these huge accounts that were getting community noted? I think the point of that was to get the narrative that this was a good thing going right off the bat. No debating it. Look, people are celebrating. This is a good thing, yada, yada, yada. Then you have to wonder, why do they need this positive sentiment forced down our throats immediately? Like they really want to take control of the situation. And I think it's for exactly that reason. They don't want people to say why it might be a bad thing, or even question just kind of passively, like what comes next. They really just want this to seem like Venezuela's liberated, this is good for everyone. The United States is getting its oil back. That was apparently theirs the whole time. Stuff like that. They don't want anyone to think about why this happened. Is this good? Was this legal? All that stuff. And why that's worth noting is, well, why was it so important to not let people have opinions about this? Why did they create this narrative, this kind of like gotcha where people can reply under anyone speculating about this and have people go, nah, Venezuelans are excited about it, therefore it's good. Don't question it. Don't say anything negative about it. Why did they need that out there so quick? Why did they need that out there? And I think it's exactly what it sounds like. It's to just stop people from being able to even think about this, which tells me there probably isn't something good going on in the horizons. There's probably going to be some undesirables coming from this situation, if I had to guess. Now, it could be as simple as just damage control. The government does what the government does. The feds do what the feds do. The influencers do what the influencers do, and they're just posting, pro-government Fed slop, and, doesn't necessarily mean something super sketchy is going on, but they at least want to keep people on board. They want to keep people pro current administration. They don't want to lose in the midterms. Could be as simple as that, but I don't really like the sketchy stuff. I don't like the lies. I don't like the media games, so I'm going to stay skeptical. But once again, Venezuelans, your excitement is still valid. I don't think anyone's trying to shut that down. You're allowed to be glad something happened, but I would just say you should be a little cautious, maybe even a lot cautious, but I'll accept a little bit. Keep your eyes open for any weird stuff. Keep your eyes open for anything that might seem a little suspicious or undesirable, and might tell you everything you need to know. But what do you guys think? Are you feeling more positive about this than you were? More negative about this than you were? Do you think a lot can change in a short amount of time? What do you think? Let me know.